Okay, so today I want to talk about the state of the world and how I think the world is going down. Like, every time you look out the window, you look at any kind of data, you look at anything, it seems like it's the same trend you see happening over and over again. Like, people are just desperate. They're giving up, they don't know what they're doing, they have no hope, and there's always some new problem that pops up every day. And people feel that. People are feeling anxious. People are scared. And it's understandable because when you're living in this world where you're getting, experiencing the worst things every day, people are treating you like shit, your family sucks, whatever problem you have. People have so many problems, and life doesn't help them at all. There's nothing to help. There's nobody to help. Nobody cares about them. Because nobody cares. I mean, why would anybody care? Everybody's just out for themselves, and they're lucky if they can even survive. So, who the hell is gonna care about you? Anybody who has any kind of power is too busy doing all the weird shit they want to do, and they don't care. Of course, they don't. So we're stuck in this situation where people are just complaining and just going down the drain. Like, everything is being lost, everything is sucking, and people are just complaining and getting more angry, and it's like nothing's gonna happen. There's like this delusion that people have that if you scream louder, if you make more sound, if you make more noise, if you disagree more, if whatever, that something's gonna happen. Like, there's someone's gonna listen, that something's gonna move. Very often it's like the opposite. When people are just screaming and all this rage bait kind of behavior, it doesn't do anything. It's just a waste of time. It's just people screaming back and forth, and it gets turned into another kind of business and another kind of hobby for people to distract themselves from the actual problems, because people are powerless ultimately. I mean, people are not going to do anything. All we can do is complain, and people just seem to enjoy that, I guess. And the internet isn't helping at all, because the internet nowadays, I mean, the internet is just a complete joke nowadays. I mean, I remember when, it was supposed to be something better. It was supposed to have some kind of utility, but of course, it turned into shit, because it's everything that human beings create seems to turn into shit. I guess it's just, existence. It's kind of the way of life. Like, the internet now is, and I guess to a degree it's always been like that, but the internet now, especially, I think, has just turned into rage bait, pornography, like lies and scams, and that's pretty much it. I mean, it's just all rage bait, and it's just a machine that encourages all the most terrible behavior, that reinforces all the most terrible impulses, that grabs mentally ill people's attention and drags them down rabbit holes and distracts people from important issues, and allows people to substitute real relationships and real interactions and real life for just fake reproductions of it. I mean, if you look at something like streaming, this seems to be taboo because people don't really talk about it that much, or when they talk about it in a friendly kind of way, as if it's not that big of a deal, or it's only a big of a deal in some ways. But people definitely use things like streaming and YouTube and whatever, social media, all that, to substitute their own social interactions. Because, I mean, it's pretty easy to say, because when you see things like, all these streamers who stream 10 hours a day, who just talk at a camera, why would anybody listen to that? I mean, I think a lot of people can ask themselves that question. Why would anybody listen to that? Why would so many people talk with these people, try to interact, be part of this community? Why would anybody care about this? This is just a person on camera. But I think at the core of it, it's really just people who are, it's the same kind of person. It's people who have no friends, it's people who have nobody to talk to, who live difficult lives, who they're just depressed and they're isolated, they're atomized, they don't have communities. And this is so clear to see, and it's so sad, because it's not normal. It's not normal that we have like basically an entire industry now of substituting our real lives, our real social interactions, our real communities for digital kind of replicas of these communities. it's not normal. Like, and people kind of want to sweep it under the rug, pretend like it's not happening, pretend like this isn't a very massive thing that people engage in because it's dirty, it's a taboo thing, and it's very uncomfortable, and a lot of people benefit from it. Either by looking at it or by being one of the persons who are providing it. So people don't want to question that, but the internet is full of just saddened people, and a lot of them don't even realize it. A lot of them don't want to acknowledge it for themselves because they feel like they don't want to be lumped in with the losers. They don't want to admit they're a loser. They don't want to admit there's someone that's struggling. They don't want to admit that things have gone wrong. They don't even care to try to understand what's happened to them, or they just experience life and they try to get through it. But and I get it. I don't blame them. But me looking at this problem, I can't stop myself from being kind of sad that this is the state of affairs. I mean, if you take the moment to look at it, it's pretty clear that's what's happening. I mean, and it's not just streaming out that like pornography is out of control. I mean, a lot of people have complained about it, and people have their issues. Some people support it, whatever. It doesn't matter. But you can't deny that a lot of people are using that to substitute real relationships once again. I mean, it's very popular, like OnlyFans and all that stuff. It's very popular because people want to chat, people want to talk, people want to feel like they have somebody on the other end of the screen that's interacting with them and that values them and that they can trust to a degree. And it's bizarre. I mean, it's a form of, if you saw these movies with where people, talk to AIs and use them as like friends and things like that, it's kind of dystopian, but we're already doing that. We're already talking to AIs where we're pretending like they're not AIs, or if it's not an AI, it's like some random person in some other country that's typing to you, and people want to pretend like that's their friends, and it's not always the case. Maybe I'm exaggerating, I'm being kind of silly with that, but it is just such a sad state of affairs, and this is only the tip of the iceberg because all these kinds of phenomena that I'm describing, all this internet, communities that are supposed to replace your real communities, they all exist because the real life communities, the things that we used to have that we actually should be living in, they all got dissolved, they all got destroyed, they all got destroyed for nothing. Basically, they got destroyed for, I don't know, profits and power of that people who we've never met wanted to take away from us. That people who had all the power, they just did what's convenient to them, and it basically created this society where everybody's atomized and everybody's just has no connection to each other, and because of that, people just don't have communities anymore. I mean, there's a reason why places like school and certain types of work maybe are one of the rare places where you can actually meet people, where you actually have a chance of making friends, of having a social circle. People look back at these places so fondly, especially for people who are born recently, because were the last places where they actually got to experience something like that, where they actually got to experience the real, authentic human experience, how it's supposed to be like. And they just look back at it so fondly because they can see the contrast from their lives there in school and their lives now that they're out of school. I mean, they're completely left, they're released into this world that they don't understand. They have no scaffolding, they have no foundation, they have nothing to stand on. They don't know where to go, they don't know who to talk to, they feel awkward, they maybe don't have good social skills, they don't have good skills in general, they don't have a lot of knowledge, they don't have wisdom, and it gets way way worse when you have other things that are weighing you down, like you have a difficult family, you have a family who doesn't teaches you anything, who in fact makes you problems, who maybe bully, who maybe abuses you. You have these real problems, and you interact with a society that is hostile to you in many ways. The economy, housing. People can't stop talking about these issues because it affects them for real. Because especially in the big cities where a lot of this internet traffic, a lot of the discussion is manufactured. People care about these things. People talk about these things, and there's a lot more issues that we don't even hear about because they're not existent in the big cities who actually produce a lot of the internet and media noise. But they're very, very real issues, and these countries are pretty difficult. I mean, you might think that you live in like a good country or anything, but if you talk about like America, even in America, which you would think is a very advanced country, there are so many towns and places that are very dilapidated, that are completely abandoned, where people are poor, where it's kind of scary going there. It feels like you're going back to the Middle Ages, and people are just hanging on by a thread onto dear life. And these are real people, just as real as anyone else. But people just they're just completely ignored because the people who actually make the media, the people who actually make the discussion, are pretty rich, wealthy, kind of disconnected, out of touch people who have a certain set of ideas that they hold dear to themselves for reasons, for their own reasons, but they tend to ignore the struggles of the people under them, the people who are not like them. But there's so many people who are struggling in so many ways, and like what I've described, I mean, when's the last time you've actually seen someone talk about the destruction of the community, the destruction of the fact that people are now substituting communities online for in that way that I said. I mean, you've maybe heard it here and there if you're really curious about the subject, but the mainstream it never gets talked about because people don't care that much. I mean, what's even the point of caring about these things? There's no advantage for a lot of people, but it's part of our real human experience. You need someone to care about you. You need a real community, and I can't stress this enough because people don't even really know what their lives are supposed to be like. I mean, you see all these talks about I need meaning in my life, you know, I need purpose. I think we need to get back to this. We need to do that. We need to do this political thing. We need to move this, move that. We need to change everything. No, people get desperate. People give these ideas because they're hungry for something, but they don't even understand what they're hungry for. They're searching for something. They're searching for some kind of meaning, but they don't even quite understand what they want because they never had the chance to understand it. I think a lot of the time these kind of pursuits of personal, self-actualization, it's actually just the search for a community that you belong to that cares about you because this is the way human beings are really supposed to live. And I'm sure you can remember back in your life the moments where you were the happier, where you had the most success, where you thought your life was the most valuable. The moment who really felt like you were a real human being were the moment where you were with people who cared about you, who you cared about, where you were doing something that mattered to you, where you doing something that's enjoyable, where it felt like you were actually helping someone who you cared about. That's really what human beings are about, and I believe human beings can be pretty good. I mean, you get easily pessimistic, and the world is frankly a fallen world, but I think there is possibility of human beings actually being good, but I think it's going to take a very specific set of circumstances to actually create something that is worth living, to actually try to get something that's better than what we have. And really it's hopeless in a way. I mean, I don't really believe in anything at this point, but what can you do except talk about it, expect talk about the problems and the issues, because nobody wants to listen, so you have to talk about it somewhere. But so this is kind of it. Yeah.